Why is it important that we keep that childlikeness in response to the Father?
Now, and the picture that I saw of you was, there was two pictures. One was in the middle of the storm where Jesus was resting there, and you were just going there and finding your resting place with Jesus. And the reason you found rest in the middle of the storm where he was at, and that was where the Father is, there was peace. So there was storm here, and there was storm everywhere. But Jesus could sleep in the middle of the storm because where his Father is, there was no storm. So he could speak to the storm that was around him because there was no storm on the inside. So I just saw you putting your head against, just like John, and that was the second picture I showed you. In the upper room, somebody's about to betray me. And Peter's like, who is it? But John puts his head against Jesus' chest, and I saw you just putting your head against the Father, feeling his heartbeats towards you. But at that moment, it was wearing the enemy out. A little girl resting with the Father, and the Father was working, and his little girl was resting.
That's so
That is precious, yes.
You're going to make me cry. And the other picture you saw, can you share that?
And the second storm is also very beautiful because that's the storm when Jesus, he's actually not in the boat. It's not that he's not there, but he goes up to the mountain and he prays, and he has already said, you're going to go to the other side, but then it is a physical storm, so it's real. It was an emotional storm. They were afraid. But there's also a spiritual storm. Where are you in the middle of this? That's the hardest storm. So in one storm, it seems like, Jesus, you don't care. You seem asleep. The other storm is, you're not even here, Jesus, and you're sending us right into this, and there's chaos everywhere. But then you start to see that Jesus is actually up on that mountain. And if you go to that mountain, I had a friend of mine that was there while I was preaching this message. He said, you can see where the disciples were at. So when you feel in the middle of the storm, you cannot see him. He actually can see you. So he's looking at you, and he's interceding in behalf of you. And that storm, the first storm is you're learning how to rest. The second one, you're learning also to row against the wind. And it was contrary wind that was trying to stop because of the destiny that God had on the other side. And so when you have those contrary wind, we have to come from a place of rest. And you will find out with the orphan heart, it is always, when there's love deficiency, you're operated with restlessness. And you feel like you have to do something. That's always a sign for me. I know when I don't have peace and I'm restless, I know it is time for me to come home to Papa, get my identity in my sonship, because perhaps my leadership went before my sonship. And then I feel pressure. But when I move my leadership behind that little boy with a big Papa, I found rest.
And it's important to rest, isn't it?
Yeah, rest
especially in a storm.
Yeah, rest is your weapon of warfare, because everything in the demonic realm is restless in nature.
Wow.
And so the enemy, you wear the enemy out by resting. But when I'm restless, I feel I need to do or pray. You get worn out instead of the enemy. But when you are finding your identity, there's intimacy from that identity. And then from that place, you're actually wearing the enemy out. It's abiding. You are in him and he's in you. That's the resting place that you're finding with him. And that is your weapon of warfare against the storms that is around you.
Isn't that good, y'all?
That is so
my
good.
Goodness.